My name is Lena Hart. I am 32 years old, and the night my almost husband told me he respected himself too much to let me kiss him goodnight was the night something inside me did not just break. It went very, very quiet. People assume big breakups come with screaming plates, shattering neighbors, calling the police, a full-blown family drama with parents and siblings picking sides like it is an inheritance hearing. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they start with the soft click of a bedroom door and a sentence that takes up permanent residence in your spine. From the outside, my life looked boring in that smug, tidy way. I worked as an operations manager for a regional grocery distribution company in the Pacific Northwest. Shipping schedules, truck routes, cold storage capacity, vendor contracts. I was the woman people called when a pallet of frozen meals vanished somewhere between Boise and Spokane, and a hospital cafeteria started panicking. It was not glamorous, but it paid for a 3-bedroom townhouse outside Seattle, a little cabin on a quiet lake in Idaho, a reliable hybrid, and a savings account that let me sleep at night. I was not rich. I was stable. Stable used to be my favorite word. Evan and I met at a supply chain conference in Phoenix, the kind with beige carpet and fluorescent lighting and keynote speakers who still thought synergy was a personality trait. I went for a seminar on cold chain optimization. He worked on the event production team, all charisma and headset, and last-minute miracles. We bonded over terrible hotel coffee and worse slide decks. He made me laugh. I made him think. A year and a half later, we bought the townhouse together. Technically, we were unmarried, but we shared a mortgage furniture, a junk drawer full of takeout menus and warranties and long-term plans. Functionally, we were married in everything but paperwork and a wedding photo. For the first 5.5 years, we were fine. Sometimes we were better than fine. We took weekend trips to Portland and Santa Fe. One longer trip to Montana where I discovered he hated hiking but loved hot tubs and rental cabins. He had his friends, I had mine. We had our little rituals, our favorite Thai place, our shows, our inside jokes. Nobody was writing country songs about us, but nobody was calling a lawyer either. Then, about 5 months before that night, something shifted. Everyone tells you that, but it does not make sense until you are standing in the wreckage replaying tiny moments you once ignored. Evan started making little comments, offhand remarks about how I never put enough effort into date nights. Dramatic sighs when I suggested cooking at home instead of going out. Correcting me in front of people like I was a brand new intern he had to manage. We went to New Orleans, not Nashville, remember? He would say, hand on my shoulder, eyes on the room. Lena always mixes up our trips. Or, that was my friend Jonah from college, not Jordan. Names are tough for her. Harmless, right? That is what I told myself. Then his friend Sienna started showing up more. Sienna was a real estate agent with a white luxury crossover, a wardrobe full of soft, neutral blazers, and a voice that always sounded like she was about to close a deal on a waterfront mansion. Divorced twice, receiving enough alimony to treat it like a family business, and bursting with opinions about modern relationships, betrayal, and what women should never tolerate. She would sit at my kitchen island, her perfectly manicured fingers wrapped around my favorite mug, talking about standards and energy, and how no man should ever feel excluded or taken for granted. Except she was not talking to me, she was talking to Evan. Suddenly, my boyfriend started parroting her lines. You do not appreciate me, Lena. Relationships should be equal effort. I am not one of your employees at the warehouse. I deserve better than feeling like an afterthought. The first few times I just stared at him. In my head, I was doing silent math. Long work weeks, mortgage payments taken from my account, the student loans I had already paid off mine, and the ones he brought into our life. His car, that we had put in my name because his credit was still bleeding from some wild music festival phase before we met. Out loud, I stayed calm. Okay, I would say, tell me what you need. He never had anything specific, just vibes. Vague resentment in the language of Instagram therapists. I assumed it was a phase. Maybe he was spiraling about turning 31. Maybe Sienna was in his ear after her second divorce and reshuffled will. Maybe he was panicking because my career looked like a steady staircase, and his looked like an escalator randomly shutting down. So I did what I have always done. I kept things running. I fixed problems. I absorbed blows. I waited it out. It did not pass. 3 months before that night, Evan quit his job at a marketing agency. Toxic culture, he said. Before that, he had left a nonprofit because the hours were inhumane. Before that, some other role with some other villain boss. By January, he was unemployed and restless while I was still juggling freight routes and vendor tantrums. He spent his days at yoga brunch with Sienna and long walks where he reposted quotes about self-respect and boundaries. I spent mine answering emails with urgent in the subject line. I did not nag him. I told myself I was being supportive. I kept paying the bills. I kept my mouth shut. I waited for him to find his footing. Then the bedroom went cold. At first, it was him rolling away when I reached for him at night. Tired, he would mutter, headache, not in the mood. Reasonable, right? Nobody owes anyone intimacy on demand. I reminded myself of that. But then it was every night. Then it was him flinching when my hand brushed his arm. Then it turned into a full-body recoil like I was an electric fence he had forgotten he installed. And then came the night. We lay side by side in bed pretending not to be on our phones. He finished scrolling, first turned away from me. I put my phone down, leaned in to give him a soft, automatic kiss on his shoulder. Something we had done 1,000 times. He jerked away as if I had stabbed him. "Do not touch me," he snapped. His voice could have sliced through steel. I froze, half leaning over him, my hand still in the air. What I hated, how small my voice sounded. "You heard me," he said, still facing the wall. "I respect myself too much for this. You respect yourself too much for what I asked," slowly. He rolled over, and the expression on his face was one I had never seen directed at me. Not even in the worst family fights over wills and holidays and who got to host Christmas. It was flat, cold, like he had rehearsed this speech. "I am not some body you get to reach for whenever you feel like it, Lena," he said. "My body, my choice. I choose not to be touched by someone who does not value me." There it was again. Value, appreciation. Something inside me let out a sound that surprised even me, half laugh, half disbelief. "I do not value you," I repeated. "Evan, you have not worked in nearly half a year. You spend your days at brunch with Sienna discussing how exhausted you are. I spend mine stuck in traffic between Tacoma and Everett, making sure food shipments do not spoil and retirement homes actually get their deliveries." His face went bright red. "Get out," he said. "Excuse me. Get out of this bed. Go sleep somewhere else. I do not want you near me." I stared, waiting for the joke, the sheepish grin, the "oh my God, I am being ridiculous." Nothing came. Just his fingers tightening around his pillow like I was the one tormenting him. "Fine," I said. My own voice sounded unfamiliar, flat, done. I grabbed my pillow, stood up, and walked to the doorway. "Good luck paying the bills with your self-respect," I added quietly, and shut the door behind me. The guest room mattress was firmer than ours. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, listening to the townhouse settle. It felt like the walls were holding their breath, waiting to see what I would do. 10 minutes, 20, 30. I listened to his footsteps, the bathroom faucet, drawers opening and closing, his ordinary routine, like he had not just detonated years of nearly marriage over a goodnight kiss. I did not cry. I did not go back. I lay there and felt something heavy click into place. This is not a phase, I thought. This is not stress. This is him rewiring the rules and expecting me to follow. And for the first time in months, another thought stepped right up beside it. I do not have to. I picked up my phone and scrolled to Noah, my friend from college. "Me, you around tomorrow night, need a drink and some honesty." Noah replied in less than a minute. "Noah, yeah, you okay?" Me define okay. I set my phone on the nightstand and stared at the faint line of light under the door. For nearly half a year, I had been playing defense, blocking shots, absorbing damage. Lying there in the silence of my own guest room, it hit me. That game was over. And like it or not, I am excellent at playing offense. The next morning, my alarm dragged me out of sleep at 6 in the morning like nothing had happened. That is the cruel thing about routines. Your life can be cracking open, but the clock still expects you to shower, dress, and show up. I blinked at the guest room ceiling, then pushed myself upright. The pillow under my head smelled like clean cotton, not the faint mix of Evan's cologne and my shampoo. For once, that felt like relief. I showered in the hall bathroom, stared at my face in the different mirror. No red eyes, no streaked mascara. I had not cried. Somehow that felt more final than any tearful breakdown. Downstairs, the townhouse felt wrong. Too quiet, yet painfully loud. The hum of the fridge, the tick of the clock above the fireplace, the furnace kicking on. Every small noise whispered the same thing: these bills are in your name. Evan was already in the kitchen, leaning against the counter in joggers and an oversized hoodie, scrolling on his phone like he was posing for an ad about emotional unavailability. He did not look up when I walked in. Morning, I said, mostly to see what would happen. Nothing. He kept scrolling. I filled the kettle, set it on the stove, reached around him to get a mug. My hands moved from muscle memory like we were two people sharing a kitchen instead of one person who had been evicted from her own bed. The silence stretched. "We doing the silent treatment now?" I asked. "I do not have anything to say to you," he replied, eyes locked on his screen. There it was. If last night had been the slap, this was the echo. "Cool," I said. "Then do not wait up for me tonight. I will not be home." That got his attention. His eyes flicked up sharp. "What?" "Poker night at Noah's," I said. He texted. I said yes. "You cannot just make plans without telling me, Lena," he scoffed. "That is not how this works. Couples communicate." I turned, leaned against the counter mug, warm in my hand. "Evan, you kicked me out of our bed last night because I tried to kiss you goodnight," I said. "You told me you respect yourself too much to be touched by me. So I am giving you distance. You are welcome." His jaw clenched. For 1 second, doubt flickered in his eyes like maybe he had gone too far. Then the mask settled back into place. "I am just asking for basic respect," he said. "You do not get to do whatever you want." I took a slow sip of coffee. Watch me. I rinsed my mug, grabbed my bag, and walked to the garage. Outside, the winter air bit my cheeks. Our neighbor Dottie was already on her front porch in a fleece robe and leopard print slippers, pretending to check her flower pots while clearly observing the neighborhood like a living security camera. "Morning." "Lena," she called, eyes dropping to the guest room pillow tucked under my arm. "Everything okay with you and Evan?" Dottie had lived on that cul-de-sac since the housing development was built. She knew who was divorcing, who was cheating, who had quietly rewritten their will, and which brother did not show up to Thanksgiving dinner because of some ancient inheritance fight. "Everything's fine," I lied. She stared at me over the rim of her mug. "Sure," she said. "And I am the Queen of England. If you ever need an extra set of eyes or ears, I am right here." I gave her a tight smile. "Thanks, Dottie." On the drive to work, I did not put on music or a podcast, just the hum of the engine and the roar in my head. Last night had been a turning point. This morning felt like the hangover. By the time I walked into the distribution center, I had my work face on. Not makeup, armor, neutral expression, even voice, professional smile dialed one notch above my actual mood. Chaos greeted me. Frozen truck delayed outside Spokane. A big box client threatening to switch suppliers. One of my shift supervisors called in sick. A scheduling glitch meant 2 trucks were about to hit the same dock within minutes. For hours, I lived in spreadsheets and headsets, rerouting shipments, smoothing egos, solving problems. I was not Lena Hartwoman sleeping in her guest room because her partner had discovered weaponized self-respect. I was Lena the fixer, the one who kept a whole little slice of the country fed. I did not think about Evan again until my phone buzzed near noon. "Noah, you good for tonight? Or was that text last night an SOS? "Me both." Noah sent back a laughing reply and a picture of a poker chip. "Bring cash. I am feeling lucky." A tiny humorless smile tugged at my mouth. By 6 in the evening, I was riding the elevator up to Noah's condo in downtown Seattle, watching the floor numbers tick up. His place was high up, all glass and city lights and furniture that said "single guy with a decent eye." The door swung open before I finished my second knock. "Lena," he grinned. "You look like something the loading dock dragged in. Come on." The place smelled like takeout and beer. The giant television played a muted basketball game. The poker table was set up by the window, stacks of chips gleaming in the city glow. Zach was already there, shuffling cards with lazy precision. He worked in cybersecurity, the kind of job that made him hyper-aware of hidden threats and completely unimpressed with people's excuses. "Evening," he said with a nod. Miles emerged from the kitchen with 2 beers mid-rant about a client who wanted to pay for an entire medical equipment order in cash. When he saw me, he changed gears instantly. "Lena, tell Noah to stop criticizing my financial decisions," he whined. "I have not even started," Noah said. He hung my coat over a chair and jerked his chin at the table. "You want in or you want to vent first?" "Both," I said. "But losing fake money sounds more fun than talking about feelings." Miles whistled. "That bad, huh? You have no idea." We settled into the ritual. Chips clacked, cards slid. Outside, the city buzzed under a sky that could not care less about human betrayal or family drama. We were midway through the second hand when a knock hit the door. All 3 men glanced at me. Noah frowned. "You expecting anyone else?" he asked. I shook my head. He opened the door and I heard her voice before I saw either of them. We were in the neighborhood Sienna sang. Thought we would drop by. Of course. Evan and Sienna swept into the condo like they were checking out a new listing. Evan in a fitted jacket and sneakers I was pretty sure I had paid for. Sienna in a cream blazer and heels that had never met a pothole. Hope you do not mind, Evan said, eyes flicking around. We thought it would be fun to see what poker night is all about. Noah hesitated. My face must have said everything because he flicked a look at me before answering. Sure, he said finally. Grab a seat. Sienna drifted to the stool behind my chair, eyes already calculating the square footage resale value and the exact number of zeros in Noah's mortgage. Evan hovered behind me like an unwanted guardian angel. The next hand started, but the mood had shifted. Even Miles was quiet. So Lena Sienna chirped, after a few minutes, voice honey sweet. Evan says you have been really stressed at work. You should take more time for yourself, girl. Life is too short to be chained to a desk and a company that would replace you in 5 minutes. I did not look up from my cards. I manage a food distribution network, I said. If I take time for myself at the wrong moment, people in nursing homes do not get meals. Sienna laughed, light and brittle. Everything sounds so dramatic with you. It is just work. Maybe I said tossing in a bet. But it is what pays the mortgage and the car insurance and the utilities. Come on, Lena, relax, Evan cut in, chuckling like this was a roast. We are just joking. Old habits kicked in. Smooth it over. Laugh it off. Do not make a scene. I felt them rise like a tide and made a different choice. The next hand began. Cards slid across the felt. Chips clicked. You are probably going to lose big tonight, Evan said loudly. Strategy has never really been your strength. The table stilled. I felt Noah and Zach both glance at me. Actually, Zach said in his flat, factual way without looking up, Lena's win rate here is second only to Noah's. Evan blinked. What? We keep stats, Zach added. She is up a few thousand over the last couple of years. Miles groaned. Why would you remind me of that? I was pretending I did not suck. It is just data, Zach said. Sienna gave a little laugh. Well, money is not everything. In poker, it kind of is, Zach replied. Silence stretched. Something in my chest shifted. I looked at my cards. Solid hand. I could play at win the pot, pretend everything was normal. Instead, I set my cards down. I am out, I said. Folding already, Noah asked. From the hand or from this, Evan asked, half joking, half nervous. From the game, I said. I pushed my chair back and stood. I do not play where I am not respected. Evan's mouth fell open. Lena, you are being dramatic. I picked up my jacket, draped it over my arm. Enjoy the game, guys, I said to the table. Noah, I will transfer you for the buy-in. Lena, wait, Noah started. It is fine, I said. I walked toward the door. Evan followed, agitation rising like a hot wind. So you are just going to leave. That is your big move. Embarrass me in front of my friends. I turned slowly. Your friends, I repeated. I have known them as long as you have, Evan. He faltered. I opened the door and felt the cool hallway air hit my face. I am not embarrassing you, I said. You managed that all on your own. Then I stepped out and closed the door behind me. The soft click sounded louder than any slammed door. In the elevator, I stared at my reflection in the mirrored wall. My cheeks were flushed, my eyes bright, but I did not look broken. I looked awake. When I pulled back into the townhouse driveway that night, Evan's car was already there. The living room lights glowed. His shadow moved behind the blinds like a pacing ghost. Good, I thought, let him stew. I stepped inside, dropped my keys in the ceramic bowl by the door. Evan stood in the hallway, arms crossed, expression rehearsed. Really, Lena, he snapped. You just walked out and left me there. You showed up uninvited to my friend's poker night and spent the evening taking shots at me, I said, sliding my coat off. That part is on you. His mouth opened closed. I was trying to spend time together, he said, voice rising. You did not even ask if it was okay for me to come. No, I said, heading for the stairs. You were trying to prove something to Sienna, maybe to yourself. I am not playing along. You cannot just walk away, Lena. We need to talk. Not tonight, I said, pausing halfway up the stairs. I am sleeping in the guest room again. Figure out what you want, because I am done guessing. He said something else, but I did not bother to listen. I closed the guest room door and let the silence settle over me like a heavy protective blanket. This time, the quiet did not feel like abandonment. It felt like a boundary. Evan was gone before I woke up the next morning. No note, no apology, just absence. Fine. I made myself breakfast. Eggs, toast, coffee. The kind of simple meal that tastes like freedom when no one is there nitpicking how you scramble. Whether you are using the right pan or whether you are putting the mug in the wrong dishwasher rack. By mid-morning, my phone rang. Unknown number, Idaho area code. Against my better judgment, I answered. Lena, came the sharp, judgmental voice. It is Patricia. Evan's mother, of course. Patricia had opinions about everything. Who should host Thanksgiving dinner? Which sister-in-law should get? Which family heirloom? What made a good wife? Why prenups were an insult? How wills should always reward loyalty. She loved the concept of family legacy and inheritance, just not the concept of anyone outside her bloodline sharing in it. Hi, Patricia, I said, keeping my tone flat. Evan called me this morning, she said, voice crackling with urgency. He is heartbroken. He says you have been emotionally distant and sleeping in another room. What exactly is going on over there? Of course, the survival strategy recruit mom. I was at Noah's last night, I said. Evan showed up uninvited and spent the evening insulting me in front of my friends. That does not sound like my son, she interrupted. Of course it did not. In her favorite family stories, he was the golden boy, forever the wronged party. He says you embarrassed him, she continued. He says you have been cold. He feels excluded, like he is not part of your life. Patricia, I said, cutting across her script, if your son deserves better, you are welcome to tell him to go find it. Silence. Excuse me, she sputtered. I am done being lectured by you, I said calmly. Have a wonderful day. She inhaled sharply, but I hung up before she recovered enough to throw more words at me. The satisfaction warmed me for about 12 seconds. Then there was a sharp knock at the front door. I opened it to find Dottie on the porch, gray hair pulled into a lopsided bun, holding a mug that said "Best Grandma Ever" in fading blue letters. I saw Evan leave this morning with suitcases, she said without preamble. Everything all right? Of course she saw. Dottie could probably track everyone's coming and going on that street from memory. He went to stay with his mother, I said, leaning against the doorframe. Dottie stepped past me like she owned the threshold and sank onto the front step. It always comes down to a standoff, she said, pointing her mug at me. You want this to work, you outlast him. What? You stay put, she said. You do not chase. You do not apologize first. Men like that crumble when they run out of runway. I rubbed my forehead. I am not trying to outlast anyone, Dottie. I am tired of feeling like the villain in my own home. She patted my shoulder like I was one of her grandkids. Then maybe, sweetheart, it is time you stop defending and start attacking. She walked away, robe flapping, leaving the word attacking ringing in my ears. Interesting word. Evan returned 2 days later. This time he did not come alone. I watched from the kitchen window as Patricia climbed out of the passenger seat, pursed lips and sharp eyes like she was arriving to appraise damage to family property. The door opened. They walked in without knocking. Patricia immediately began reshaping throw pillows and adjusting picture frames as if reclaiming territory. Lena, she said, not even glancing at me, we need to talk. No, I said, we really do not. She blinked, thrown off. I am his mother, she said, lifting her chin. I have a right to be involved. You are a guest, I replied. Act like one, or leave. Her face turned a shade reminiscent of boiled beets. See, Evan told her, gesturing at me. This is exactly what I mean. She is hostile to everyone. Patricia's eyes sharpened. Someone needs to be, she said. You do not appreciate what you have, Lena. You have been given so much. I exhaled long and slow. I grabbed my keys from the hook. I am going to the lake cabin, I said. You two can enjoy the house. You cannot just leave, Evan shouted. Watch me, I said. I walked out without another word, the door closing behind me with a calm finality that felt suspiciously like revenge. The drive to the Idaho cabin took about 2.5 hours, give or take traffic and weather. I did not turn on music. I did not replay arguments. I did not recite a mental list of his offenses like some toxic prayer. I just drove. Trees grew thicker as the highway narrowed. The sky opened, that big western kind of open that always made me feel small and strangely safe. The cabin waited on the edge of a quiet lake, dark wood and peeling paint, and a small porch that had seen countless cups of coffee and more than one meltdown. I had bought it years before meeting Evan with money from a promotion and a small inheritance from my grandmother. She had been the only one in my family who understood that some legacies cannot be measured in wills and bank balances. Lena, she had told me once, do not wait for someone else to hand you peace. Buy as much of it as you can, even if it looks like a tiny drafty cabin in the middle of nowhere. The place was simple. 1 bedroom, 1 tiny loft, a kitchen that barely fit 2 people, a dock leaning into the lake like an old man reaching for support. It was everything Evan hated. Remote, quiet, humble. It was exactly what I needed. I spent Saturday on the dock with a cheap fishing rod letting minnows steal my bait while a paperback lay open beside me. The sun moved, birds screamed at each other in the trees, the water whispered against the wood. I thought about Evan less than I would have believed possible. When I did think of him, it was not with longing, it was with clarity. I thought about his slow slide into resentment, the way Sienna's words had crept into his mouth, the way Patricia had always treated me like a long-term placeholder, someone who could be written out of the story before any real inheritance or family business decisions were made. I remembered a Christmas a couple of years back at his parents' house. Everyone crowded around the tree. His sister showing off a new engagement ring, his brother bragging about some promotion in the family-run construction company. Patricia had made some offhand comment about how someday when they were gone, everything would go to the kids, meaning her flesh and blood. She had looked at me when she said it. Not cruel exactly, just dismissive, like I was a seasonal employee who would not make it to the next round. At the time, I had brushed it off. Now sitting on my own dock, I felt the sting all over again. They had never seen me as part of the legacy, just a supporting character, a worker bee, never the one whose name got written into the will. Good, I thought suddenly. If they do not see you when you are giving, they do not get to see you when you are gone. I ate cereal out of the box for dinner and watched the sun melt into the lake. The sky shifted through shades of gold and lavender, the kind of colors that would have made Sienna pull out her phone for a filtered post about manifesting. I went to bed early that night alone in the small bedroom wrapped in blankets that smelled faintly of cedar and detachment. I slept hard and dreamless. By Sunday evening, when I turned the truck back towards Seattle, the decision in my chest felt like a stone, not heavy, solid. When I walked back into the townhouse, the air felt different. Patricia was gone. Evan was in the living room, arms crossed like a boy about to announce he had decided the rules of the game. "We need counseling," he said before I even set my keys down. "I found someone Friday. We have an appointment this week." "No," I said. "Lena, we need help," he insisted. "You are clearly overwhelmed. We need a neutral party like a judge in one of those family inheritance fights on television, someone to make sure you treat me fairly." "No," I repeated louder. "You are being ridiculous," he snapped. "I am trying to fix this." "By ambushing me with an appointment I did not agree to," I asked. "By dragging your mother into our arguments, that is not fixing anything. That is building a courtroom so you can keep pretending I am on trial." He opened his mouth to argue. My phone buzzed. "Noah, Sienna is throwing a barbecue Saturday. She invited half the friend group and told me you and Evan were coming. Want me to make up an excuse so you can skip it?" I stared at the screen. "Me, no, I will be there." "Noah, uh-oh." "Me, trust me. This will be interesting." I locked my phone and slipped it back into my pocket. "Saturday should be fun," I said to Evan. Then I walked upstairs, leaving him standing in the living room, looking like a man who had just realized the judge he requested might not rule in his favor. Saturday arrived with that heavy humming tension that reminded me of late summer thunderstorms and tense Thanksgiving dinners, where everyone pretended not to fight over who got left out of Grandpa's will. Evan and I did not drive together. I left about 10 minutes before he did, and did not bother to pretend it was an accident. Sienna's house sat in one of those manicured neighborhoods where every lawn looked professionally groomed, and every driveway housed at least one expensive vehicle, angled just so like a magazine spread. Her two-story home had bright white trim, an immaculate porch, and a backyard that looked like a lifestyle commercial. Fairy lights draped between trimmed hedges. An outdoor kitchen with more stainless steel than some restaurants. An in-ground pool with a rock waterfall. A bar cart that probably cost more than my entire living room. I walked through the side gate and the smell of grilling meat and expensive perfume hit me at the same time. Noah and Zach were by the grill. "You actually came," Noah said, raising his eyebrows. "Told you I would," I replied. Zach gave a small nod. "Brace yourself, she is in rare host mode." "What does that mean?" Before he could answer, Miles appeared with a plate full of burgers. "Your boyfriend is over there with his mother," he muttered, nodding toward a cluster of patio chairs. "He keeps staring at you like someone just read his name off the excluded list in a will." I followed his gaze. Evan sat between Sienna and Patricia. All three turned to look at me at the exact same moment. If it had not been so exhausting, it would have been funny. "Fantastic," I said. "Should have brought popcorn." For about an hour, people mingled, kids splashed in the pool, and the grill smoked. I made small talk with a couple from Noah's office about fishing retirement plans and ridiculous office gift exchanges. I tried to focus on the harmless stuff: aging parents, old college stories, Christmas disasters, anything except the triangle of eyes on me from the patio. Evan kept looking over like he wanted to start something but could not quite decide how. He did not have to. Sienna did it for him. She clapped her hands, sharp enough to slice through the backyard chatter. "Lena," she called across the lawn, her voice syrup sweet, but turned up just enough that conversations quieted. "Can you help Evan bring out the dishes?" Heads turned. The yard fell into that semi-hush of collective attention. "Sorry," she added with an exaggerated laugh. "I always confuse names. I have a client named Leah. Anyway, can you grab the dishes? We need extra hands." It was not a request. It was a command, issued in public with witnesses testing whether I would still jump when she snapped her fingers. Noah stiffened beside me, tongs midair. Zach's eyebrows crawled toward his hairline. Miles mouthed something that looked suspiciously like, "Oh no." Dozens of eyes flicked to me, some curious, some sympathetic, some hungry for drama. I set my drink on the table, felt my heartbeat slow. "No thanks," I said loud enough to carry. "I am good." The hush deepened. "Excuse me," Sienna blinked. "You have 2 arms and 2 legs," I said, my voice smooth. "I am sure you and Evan can handle your own dishes." Someone on the far side of the yard choked on lemonade. "Lena, do not be rude," Evan said, standing so fast his chair scraped. "No," I said, turning to him. "Do not issue orders at a party. If you want help, ask like an adult. Do not call out my name like I am staff." Patricia surged forward, outrage painted across her face. "You will not speak to these women like that," she snapped. I handed my plastic cup to Noah without taking my eyes off her. "Actually," I said, calm as glass, "I will speak however I choose. This is not your home. You are not my mother, and you have never treated me like family. So let us not pretend this is about respect or loyalty or some imaginary inheritance of manners." The yard went dead quiet. Even the waterfall seemed to hush for a moment. Evan's face flushed red, then purple. Sienna looked like someone had slapped her with a silk glove. Patricia's jaw clenched so hard I half expected to hear a crack. I adjusted the strap of my bag on my shoulder, nodded to Noah and Zach. "Have a wonderful party," I said. Then I walked to the side gate and let myself out. Second event in a week. Second clean exit. Apparently I had a new signature move. I drove to a small burger place 15 minutes away, slid into a booth, and ordered the greasiest thing on the menu. The television above the bar played a muted baseball game I did not care about. The noise of strangers' conversations washed around me like white noise. My phone buzzed and buzzed on the table. Evan, then Sienna, then Evan again, then Patricia. Silent, frantic calls stacking into a little tower of desperation. I ignored everyone. Salt grease and cold soda grounded me more than any meditation app ever had. There is a specific satisfaction in refusing to answer a phone when you know the person on the other end is used to you always picking up. When I finally drove home around 9 in the evening, the townhouse was dark. The living room lamp glowed, casting long shadows. A note sat on the kitchen counter, written in Evan's familiar handwriting. "Staying at Sienna's tonight. We need space." I crumpled it and tossed it into the trash. Space. I had given him space. A guest room, a whole cabin, entire days without questions. All he had done with that space was fill it with contempt. I stood in the kitchen for a long moment, feeling the quiet curl around my ankles. Then I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a contact Noah had given me months ago just in case. Lauren Pierce, family and property attorney. I stared at the name, thumb hovering, then tapped. The call rang twice before a calm voice answered. "Law Office of Lauren Pierce. How can we help you?" "I need a consultation," I said. "As soon as you can manage." There was a brief pause. "Wednesday at 2 in the afternoon," she replied. "Does that work?" "Yes," I said. "It does." I ended the call and set the phone down, my heart pounding a steady, determined rhythm. Just like that, another chapter began. Wednesday arrived heavier than any job interview or promotion meeting or awkward holiday dinner with Evan's family. Not because I doubted myself, because for once I did not. Lauren's office took up a corner of a glassy tower downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows, views of the water shelves, of legal volumes, soft lighting that smelled faintly of eucalyptus and printer ink. The receptionist led me to a conference room. A few minutes later, Lauren walked in. Late 40s, salt and pepper hair pulled into a smooth, twist-tailored navy suit, eyes that took everything in and judged nothing too quickly. Lena, she said, shaking my hand, tell me what is going on. I did. Not the full emotional saga, just the facts. The night he pulled away from my touch and used self-respect as a weapon. The stealth emotional erosion. The uninvited poker night appearance. The mother-in-law invasion. The barbecue performance. The note about needing space. The money. The house. The cabin. Lauren listened, pen gliding across a yellow legal pad. Her mouth tightened slightly when I mentioned certain things. Patricia calling. Sienna's public command. Evan kicking me out of our bed. When I finished, she asked a series of questions. Does he work? No. Who pays the bills? I do. Whose name is on the townhouse? Both of ours, I said. But I paid the down payment and every mortgage payment. She expected that answer. I could see it in the small nod. Cars, both in my name. His credit was a mess when we met. Any kids? No. That, she said, makes this simpler. Not emotionally, but legally. We went through assets, the approximate value of the townhouse, the remaining mortgage, my retirement accounts, savings I had built before we met, the Idaho cabin I had bought years earlier with inheritance money from Grandma. That cabin is separate property, Lauren said. You owned it before cohabitation and paid for it with inherited funds. That combination is very clear. It is yours, untouchable. I felt something inside me loosen. Lauren explained my options. Since we were not married, we were not dealing with divorce in the traditional sense, but we did have joint property and intertwined finances. There were state laws about cohabitation, shared equity, and support. He will likely fight, she said matter-of-factly. People like Evan often do, but the law does not reward emotional theatrics. You have been carrying the financial weight. Our job is to make sure he does not turn your sense of responsibility into a weapon against you. What if he tries? I asked. Then he can pay his attorney to bring unreasonable demands, she said. And I will be very happy to dismantle each one in front of a judge. For the first time in months, I felt actively, strategically protected. After our meeting, I sat in my car in the garage for a full minute, hands on the steering wheel, breathing. Then I opened my banking app. Over the next couple of hours, I moved money into accounts only I controlled. I changed passwords and security questions, making sure none of the answers related to our shared life. I printed bank statements and pulled together every document Lauren had asked for. Mortgage paperwork, car titles, pay stubs. That evening, I toured an apartment in the city. 12th floor, big windows, small balcony, quiet building, decent parking. A place that had no ghosts attached to its walls. I signed the lease. Move-in date in about 2 weeks. I did not tell Evan. The universe could deliver that notice in due time. Over the next week, I treated my own life like a covert operation. I started moving boxes at odd hours. Early morning trips to a rental storage unit. Weekend runs to the new apartment. I cleared my most important possessions first. Personal documents, sentimental items, some furniture, my grandmother's quilt, my fishing rod, the cookbook with her chicken and dumplings recipe that had never been written down anywhere else. I shifted more of my daily necessities into the guest room. Evan barely noticed. He was either at Sienna's house at brunch, at a yoga class, or with Patricia. He left notes on the counter sometimes. We need to talk. Avoidance is toxic. My therapist says communication is key. I left cash for shared groceries in an envelope and went to work. We lived like strangers, renting the same Airbnb for different weeks. By Friday, Lauren filed the necessary paperwork. At 2 in the afternoon, she texted, "Filed. Process server will be at your place Monday morning at 9. I stared at the message until the words blurred. Then I exhaled slowly. That weekend, I emptied the guest room closet and filled more boxes. I took my favorite dishes, leaving the generic ones. I took the good towels, left the old ones. By Sunday night, the townhouse did not feel like mine anymore. Oddly, that felt like relief. Monday morning at exactly 9, the process server showed up at the townhouse. I did not open the door. Evan did. Lauren texted me a single word, "Served." At 9:01, my phone lit up with his name. I let it ring once before answering. "What is this?" he shouted. "Legal paperwork," I said. "I am done, Evan." "You cannot be serious," he sputtered. "You filed to split everything. You are tearing apart our life over a few arguments." "You had nearly half a year," I said, each word steady. "You used that time to disrespect me, bring your mother into our fights, let another woman narrate our relationship, and tell people I had abandoned you. I am simply finishing what you started." He went quiet for a beat. "This is cruel," he said finally, voice shaking. "Just cruel. After everything I gave you." I thought of the bills, the mortgage, the cabin, the car in his name with my signature on every line. "I am done," I repeated. "Nothing you say will change that." He inhaled jaggedly. "You are going to regret this," he snarled. "I will fight you. I will take the house, the cars, everything. You do not get to walk away clean." "You can try," I said and hung up. He called back immediately. I blocked his number. Then I turned my phone off and put it in a drawer. That evening, I stood in my new apartment surrounded by half-open boxes, looking out at the Seattle skyline. Silence filled the space, not heavy, just present. The air smelled like fresh paint and cardboard. No cologne, no tension, no weaponized self-respect. I made a cup of tea on my small new stove, sat on the floor with my back against the wall, and watched the city lights blink. For the first time in years, the future did not feel like something to brace against. It felt like an open road. The next week unfolded like watching someone act out the 5 stages of grief in the wrong order with all the volume of a family Christmas fight. Day 1 was remorse. My phone, once I turned it back on, filled with a long, sprawling message from an unknown number. Evan. Lena. I have been reflecting. I realize I have not been myself. I am under so much pressure. I did not appreciate what we had. I did not show up for you. I want to fix this. I will get a job. I will go to counseling. I will do whatever you need. Please, we have too much history to throw away. I did not respond. I forwarded the number to my blocked list. Day 2 was bargaining. He showed up in the parking lot at my office, standing near my car, with 2 coffees like a discount romantic comedy lead. "Lena, just 5 minutes," he called as I approached. "I just want to talk." I walked right past him and headed for the building. Security saw the exchange on the cameras and intercepted him at the door. Company policy about unwanted visitors. They walked him back to his car like he was a delivery driver who had wandered into the wrong area. He waited in the lot for almost an hour before leaving. Day 3 was delegation. Sienna ambushed me at a coffee shop near my new apartment. She slid into the booth across from me, uninvited, sunglasses perched on her head even though we were indoors. "Lena, babe," she started as if we had ever been close. "Evan is devastated. He is just scared. Men do stupid things when they feel excluded. What matters is forgiveness." I stood up, picked up my coffee, and walked away. She sat there, mouth open, as if I had violated some sacred script, where she got to play relationship judge and I played the weeping defendant. Day 4 was rage. My email started pinging with messages from an address I did not recognize. "Evan again. You quit. You are running away. You are throwing away everything we built because you cannot handle conflict. You will never find someone who puts up with you the way I did. I hope your new life with your precious cabin is worth it." Delete, block. Day 5 was recruitment. Mutual acquaintances started reaching out, people from game nights and birthdays, people I had not thought about in months. "Lena, I heard you left Evan out of nowhere. Are you okay? Maybe give him another chance. Relationships take work." "Sienna says he's heartbroken. I saw his posts about betrayal. He is really going through it." I replied to a couple with the same line. "He is entitled to tell whatever story he needs to. I am not engaging." Then I muted most of them. Day 6 was the smear campaign. Evan started posting vague quotes on social media about being betrayed, about cold-hearted partners, about women who only care about money and status. Sienna reshared his posts with captions about how men deserve loyalty too, how some women will throw away a good man for the illusion of independence. Friends sent me screenshots waiting for my reaction. I replied with exactly one message. Let them talk. Truth has a way of leaking out. By the end of the week, I had blocked his number, muted his online presence, and tightened my circle down to the people who did not need a script to understand the story. Lauren called during my lunch break that Friday. "He wants the townhouse," she said dryly, "plus support, plus half your retirement." "Of course he does," I said, stabbing a piece of lettuce. "I told his attorney that he is welcome to want whatever he likes," she said. "Legally, he will be disappointed." "What is our move?" I asked. "We offer him exactly what the law entitles him to," she said. "Half of the equity in the house. Half of the retirement contributions made during the years you lived together, not a cent from before. No support. You have been subsidizing him long enough." "This is going to get uglier, is it not?" "Only if you let him pull you back in," she replied. "Do not respond to his theatrics. Let me handle the ugly. That is what you are paying me for." "Yes, ma'am," I said. 2 weeks after the barbecue, Noah called with an invitation. Cabin weekend, he asked. Zach is in. Miles says he will come if his latest client does not implode. I hesitated for half a second. Sure, I said. I could use a fishing trip. We loaded coolers and rods into my truck and drove north. The closer we got to the lake, the more my shoulders dropped. When we arrived, the cabin greeted us like it always did. Pine needles everywhere, a stubborn door that stuck in winter, the faint smell of smoke and lake water. We grilled on the small deck. We fished off the dock. Zach and Noah argued about whose catch was bigger. That bass is tiny, Noah said, squinting at the fish in Zach's hand. This is skill, Zach replied. Your problem is denial. Their bickering warmed me in a way no romantic gesture ever had. It was simple, loyal, easy. We were just settling into that sweetness when I heard it. A car tires crunching on the gravel drive. Noah frowned. No one should be here, he said. The cabin was off the beaten path. You had to know where you were going. It was not the kind of place people found by accident. The car door slammed. High heels clicked on gravel. Oh no, Zach murmured. Lena, Evan's voice sliced across the quiet water. He staggered into view around the corner of the cabin, overdressed and wildly out of place. His shirt was a silky button-down half untucked. His hair was a wreck. His eyes were glassy. There was smudged eyeliner at the corners like he had wiped at his face and made everything worse. He wore pointed dress shoes completely wrong for the terrain. We need to talk, he slurred, pointing at me with a trembling hand. Right now. Noah leaned close and whispered, Do you want us to get out of the way? No, I said, stay. Evan tottered onto the dock, the boards creaking under his shoes. You cannot just ignore me, he said. I am your partner. You were my partner, I corrected. Now you are my soon-to-be ex-co-owner of a townhouse, and you are trespassing. This cabin is mine. You ruined my life, he shouted. Behind me, Zach muttered, Here we go. No, Evan, I said, keeping my voice calm. You humiliated yourself at poker night. You brought your mother into our arguments. You let Sienna weaponize my worst moments as entertainment. You told everyone I abandoned you while you were sleeping in the bed I pay for. Then you kicked me out of it for trying to kiss you. Noah nodded slowly. She is not wrong. Evan's mouth opened and closed, no sound coming out. You love the lifestyle, I continued. The comfort, the house, the almost family business feeling without any of the work. Not me. That is not true, he protested. I loved you. Then you should have acted like it, I said. He took a step toward me, too fast, too much. His heel caught between two planks of the dock. For a split second, he wobbled, arms flailing like a startled bird. Then gravity did what gravity does. He pitched forward, landing chest and face first on the rough wood. The sound echoed across the lake. One shoe flew off his foot and sailed into the water with a neat little splash. Noah choked on a laugh, bent over, unable to breathe. Oh my God, he wheezed. Zach had his phone out instantly. Years of cybersecurity work meant he appreciated evidence. Evan pushed himself up on his hands, wood splinters stuck to his cheek hair, hanging in his eyes. He looked like he had gone through a windstorm and a shredder. Screw all of you, he slurred. Are you filming me? Zach tapped his screen. Yes. Delete it, Evan tried to yell. It came out like a hiccup. No, Zach said. This is the only comedy I have watched all month. Evan groaned, scrambled to his feet, realized he now had one shoe and one sock. He yanked off the remaining shoe and threw it at me. He missed by a ridiculous distance. The shoe plopped into the water near its twin and slowly sank. Now you are littering, Zach said. Want me to call the ranger? Evan staggered off the dock and up the gravel, sulking his way to his car. He flung himself into the passenger seat and slammed the door. Noah peered at him through the windshield. He is not driving like that, he said. Absolutely not, I agreed. Noah pulled out his phone and ordered a rideshare. When the driver arrived, he looked from us to Evan's mascara-streaked face and back again. He is upset, not kidnapped, Noah explained, slipping the driver a generous tip. Evan sobbed the whole way down the drive as the car pulled away. His car stayed parked by my cabin. His shoes stayed at the bottom of the lake. His dignity was scattered somewhere between the dock and the driveway. We fished for another hour. Every few minutes, Zach would start laughing again, watching the video replay. This, he said, is the best thing I have filmed since my nephew hit the clown with a piñata stick. By the time the sun went down, the lake had turned to glass again. The world felt oddly balanced. Evan had come to fight. Instead, he had fallen apart on his own. And finally, I understood something important. I was not the villain in his story. I had just stopped playing the role he wrote for me. 6 months later, it was done. Not cleanly, not neatly, but finally. The legal process moved the way legal processes always do. Slowly expensively. With a level of petty detail you normally only see in sibling fights about wills and who gets grandma's wedding china. Evan filed objections. He wanted the townhouse. He wanted my car. He wanted what he called transitional support because I had allegedly undermined his career by not honoring his energy. He tried to claim half of my retirement, including the portion I had built before we even met. Lauren shredded his claims with calm, ruthless precision. Evan is capable of employment, she pointed out. He has left several jobs by choice. He does not have a disability that prevents him from working. Support is not appropriate. She presented records showing how my income had covered nearly all shared expenses for years. She documented when I bought the cabin where the down payment came from, how it had never been co-mingled with joint funds. In hearings, the judge sat on the bench listening with a practiced expression that said she had seen much worse and was not impressed. When Evan tried to dramatize, her eyes glazed over. Her written order was blunt. Evan was entitled to half the equity in the townhouse after selling costs, half of the retirement contributions made during the years we lived together. Nothing from before, no support, no claim on the cabin, no claim on my car. My legal fees were considerable, but every dollar felt like a down payment on my future sanity. After the settlement, the townhouse sold quickly. A young couple bought it, talking about where they would put a nursery, how they would host Thanksgiving dinner, how they would decorate for Christmas. I wished them well, and silently hoped they would both learn to treat each other better than Evan had treated me. News filtered back through Dottie, who remained an unstoppable neighborhood intelligence service. Evan had moved in with Sienna permanently. He had gotten a part-time job at a bank. He despised it. The pay was not enough for the lifestyle he craved, and the dress code did not allow for his favorite bohemian sweaters. He looks miserable, Dottie reported one afternoon while we both watered our balcony plants in the summer heat. That is not gossip. That is a neutral observation. Good for him, I said, sipping iced tea. Maybe misery will finally teach him what reflection could not. Patricia called me once after the settlement, just once. She did not say hello. She launched straight into fury. You destroyed my son's life, she hissed. He gave you years. You took his best and threw him away like trash. I hope you are proud. I waited until she ran out of steam. You should have taught your son not to bite the hand that fed him, I said calmly. Then I hung up. She never called again. Sienna's social media went through a predictable arc. For a while, she posted black and white quotes about betrayal, about how some women are all about money and independence, how good men are overlooked. There was one shot of a wilted rose with a caption about heartbreak. It got barely any likes. Every once in a while, one of my friends would send me a screenshot with a laughing note. I would reply with a simple shrug. Let her curate whatever story she needs to, I would write. I am living the unfiltered version. Meanwhile, my life filled in slowly like color seeping back into an old photograph. The new apartment began to look less like a storage unit and more like a home. Plants on the windowsill, a small wooden coffee table, a soft rug under my bare feet, a bookshelf I built with my own hands one Sunday afternoon, while Noah and Zach took turns pretending to read the instructions. We spent weekends at the cabin sometimes, just me and the guys, sometimes just me. We fished, we grilled, we played cards on the rickety kitchen table. Zach teased Miles about his tendency to complain about alimony to his ex-wife while simultaneously chasing a new relationship like a man collecting trading cards. This is what you get for treating weddings like a competitive sport, Noah told him one night. Gotta catch none of them, Zach added. I did not start dating. People assumed I would. They mentioned dating apps and blind setups and how I should not let one betrayal turn me against love. It was not like that. I just liked my life. I liked waking up and not wondering which version of a partner I would get that day. I liked watching whatever movie I wanted without someone sighing dramatically about how I never truly relaxed. I liked spending money on myself without calculating whether I needed to save to cover some new phase in someone else's life. I liked the quiet. For the first time in nearly 7 years, quiet did not feel like being excluded. It felt like peace. Sometimes I thought back to those early days, hotel coffee in Phoenix, Evan's laugh, the way I had mistaken chaos for depth. Then I would blink and the memory would melt away like fog in sunlight. People say love makes you blind. Nobody talks enough about how leaving can give you back your sight. One rainy Sunday afternoon, Noah and Zach came over to help me assemble a larger bookshelf in the living room. Miles showed up late with a pizza he had been forced to buy because, as Noah explained, Anyone who made the rest of us listen to his complaints about support payments had to contribute snacks as emotional compensation. They argued the entire time. Why do you own so many books? Miles groaned, hauling another box across the room. Normal people have like 10. Because I can read, I said. Noah snorted. Careful, that is a dangerous kink in this economy. We put on some music, built the shelf, stacked the books. At one point, Noah stopped, looked around my apartment, and nodded. You look good, he said, settled in. I paused, a hardcover in my hand. I feel good, I answered. And I am not just saying that because I have full custody of my own remote. That night, after they left and the apartment was quiet again, I stepped out onto the small balcony with a mug of tea. The Seattle skyline glittered in the darkness, lights blinking and flickering like a city-sized heartbeat. I leaned on the railing and thought about everything that had happened. The slow erosion of respect, the public humiliations, the manipulation disguised as self-help, the mother-in-law who treated our home like a courtroom and herself like the judge, the friends who stayed, the ones who revealed themselves as spectators more than supporters. I thought of my grandmother, of how she had left me that modest inheritance with a note about using it for something that would keep me grounded. She had not known it would buy me a cabin that would eventually feel like the scene of my own resurrection. I thought about how easy it is to normalize disrespect when you are tired or hopeful or invested in the story you told yourself at the beginning. Mostly, though, I thought about this. Self-respect is not supposed to be a weapon someone uses to punish you. It is supposed to be the boundary you draw when someone else tries. I am not the villain. I am not a quitter. I am not the problem. I am the one who finally stopped saying, maybe it will get better someday, and said, that is enough. My life now is quiet. And for the first time in a very long time, that quiet feels like freedom, not exile. If you are listening to this and any part of it feels uncomfortably familiar, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not crazy for wanting peace. You are not selfish for wanting respect to feel like love, not like a threat hung over your head. You are not disloyal for refusing to play a rigged game, whether the people holding the scorecards are partners, parents, siblings, bosses, or in-laws who think they are judges in some invisible court. Sometimes revenge does not look like slashing tires, or exposing secrets at a Christmas dinner, or blowing up a will reading with a hidden document. Sometimes revenge is quieter. You hire the lawyer, you sign the lease, you pack the boxes, you let the gossip swirl without you. You let karma handle the people who cannot stop performing for an audience. You choose yourself. In my story, there was no dramatic courtroom showdown where a judge slammed a gavel and declared I was right all along. There was paperwork. There were long meetings. There were nights when I stared at the ceiling and wondered if I was overreacting. And there were mornings when I woke up, looked around my little apartment or the cabin by the lake, and felt more at home than I ever had in a house with a shared deed. That feeling is worth every signature, every awkward conversation, every dollar of legal fees, every pair of shoes at the bottom of that lake. If you ever find yourself standing in your own kitchen holding your own mug, being told you should be grateful, you should accept crumbs, you should stay quiet, for the sake of family or image or some imaginary future inheritance, I hope you remember this. Respect is not something you beg for. It is something you embody. And if someone tries to turn it into a weapon, you are allowed to walk away and let them learn the hard way that tables can turn quietly. You do not owe anyone your silence. You do not owe anyone your suffering. You owe yourself the life you can sleep in at night. So if you made it all the way through my story, thank you for keeping me company while I told it. If any part of it nudged something awake in you, let me know. Share your thoughts. Share your own stories of revenge, of boundaries, of tables turning at long last. And if you want to hear more messy, honest family drama, more tales of betrayal and payback, more stories where women stop apologizing for wanting more than scraps, make sure you stick around. Like, comment, subscribe. There are a lot more stories where this one came from.